I mentioned that most apps are relying on essentially a high volume play. So they have a low price point, low customer lifetime value. And that means that the customer acquisition cost needs to be quite low. And one of the easiest or most effective ways of achieving that is through word of mouth marketing instead of things like direct response advertising. So what are the three key drivers of word of mouth? Well, I'm going to cite some research here from McKinsey & Company, the world's top management consultancy, or at least has a reputation for being the top management consultancy. And the three key drivers are experiential, consequential, and intentional. So let's talk about what these are. Now, experiential word of mouth is basically relying on the direct experience that someone has when they use your app. So if they're using their app and they have set expectations about what's going to happen, and then you deviate from those expectations, they're going to talk about it. So one of those things might be negative. So, oh my gosh, I downloaded this app and then it immediately crashed. Well, people are going to talk about that, or they're going to talk about how unreliable it was. But the flip side, what you want is they want to talk about the positive things, where it's like it vastly exceeded their expectations. Now, for example, there are a bunch of apps out there that are calorie counters. And basically you need to manually put in the calories. Well, if there was a calorie counter, well, all I had to do is take a photo of my meal. And maybe this exists now, I don't know. It didn't when I was looking for one. And then it immediately estimated the calories. Then that's something I would talk about. But like, hey, John, I just lost 50 pounds with this cool app. All I do is snap a photo. It's the easiest calorie counter I've ever used. Now that's worth talking about. Another thing that might be worth talking about is just something that's super creative. So maybe it's a calorie counter, but every aspect of the app is named after a celebrity. Oh, this is the David Beckham breakfast, something like that. And maybe there's like a cartoon of David Beckham. Like that's something flashy, attention-grabbing, something I might talk about. So the key thing here is basically around product development and the in-product branding. So what you want to do is deviate from expectations in specific areas that are worth talking about. So for example, the fact that you are very fast isn't necessarily something I'm going to brag about to my friends. But if it's something unexpected that is has some sort of social value to it, social currency, then I might talk about it more. Like this will help you lose weight, or this will help you accomplish a task. So you need to be conscious about where you're deviating from expectations, not just the fact that you're deviating from expectation. All right. So the experience of the product can generate word of mouth. The other thing that can generate word of mouth is what's called consequential, and basically this is traditional marketing. Now I would define your stereotypical traditional ad as being a video. You think of a TV video, but I think it could. In a startup space, or if you're in a smaller company, it's not necessarily a TV ad. Maybe it's an ad that you run on Facebook or an ad that you run on LinkedIn, which can be very cheap. Even on LinkedIn, I was getting video views for around 4 cents each. Now, the key here is that it's not just any kind of video ad. It's a video ad that's been designed or has the capability of spreading word of mouth. And that's why often when you see consumer ads, it seems bizarre. They're very funny, or they have a talking animal in them. They have these silly gimmicks. A gorilla playing the drums, for example, was a very popular example of a viral marketing campaign for chocolate. So those are the kinds of things that you need to consider if you're designing a traditional video ad to generate word of mouth. Is how do we make this surprising? How do we make this stand out and bust out so that people actually find it worthy of discussing? Maybe it's a video ad where it's just complete silence, and then people are going to talk about that. Maybe it's just your logo for 2 minutes. So get creative with that. Don't be stuck in the mindset of advertising just needs to be science of getting people to immediately respond and install the app. Often you're really banking on the economics of word of mouth, because banking on every customer seeing your ad installing it is not going to be cost effective if you're taking the low price model. Now, the last one, the third one here, is intentional. And this is what I touched on lightly earlier, which is generally when you're purposely designing things to get word of mouth. So maybe it's like a flash mob event that you held somewhere in New York City, or some sort of shock thing to generate word of mouth. Maybe you're working with influencers to get them to endorse your product, and you're getting about 10 of them to endorse your product simultaneously through live streams to create this sort of momentum of, wow, whatever this is, this thing is trending right now. And then suddenly it starts showing up in the search algorithms because all these influencers are talking about it at once. They're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they're on Twitch, they're everywhere. That's the kind of intentional word of mouth marketing. And that's one of the areas that I like to focus on the most.